but we'll first start with Mr. Cantu-Withoff.
Where did everybody go? Doesn't anybody care? Okay, I'm Mike Cantu-Withoff, and I live at Canyon Lake. In fact, I've lived at Canyon Lake full time since 1976. My kids have gone to school there. I've had a business in New Braunfels, Doc's Guns in New Braunfels. I ran that business for 27 years before closing it back in '05. So I know the area. I'm in real estate now, and I do proposal writing, grant writing, but I continue to know the area, and I have many dealings with people of our area. To mention a few things I do, I'm Vice President of the Lions Club, and I'm in charge of the fish fry. And I might mention we have a great fish fry coming up on May the 6th. That's a Sunday, and it's going to be over at the rec center, right below the dam. Please put that on your calendar.
Thank you. Mr. Donegan.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for the league. It's very interesting, but both of my grandmothers were born before women's suffrage, which it's just amazing where we are. I'm a businessman, and while I'm a young man, I've had some opportunities. One, I'm a veteran. I've worked offshore in China with Fortune 500 companies, and these are the type of companies that the PEC is going to be dealing with in the future. Our little rural co-op is growing up, and there's some very large issues. I'm a father of 3. My family roots go back into the 1800s in Texas, and I chose to live here to raise my family. I think this is the most wonderful place in the world, and I feel truly blessed to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Landaker, how would you say your name?
I'm Larry Landaker, and I am currently on the board of directors. I'm running for re-election to the PEC board. I've been on the board for 3 years. I live in Wimberley, have lived here for 10 or 11 years, actually moved in here right before 9/11. I have I've proudly served on this board. The PEC of today hardly resembles the PEC of just 3 or 4 years ago. And I would like to continue the reform efforts that have been undertaken on multiple fronts to get PEC's good name back and to move it forward into the new era. I too am a business person. I have 27 years of senior level management in the television industry. I'm currently a real estate agent serving Central Texas in this area. I look forward to getting acquainted more tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Rogers.
Good evening. I'm Linda K. Rogers. Really appreciate the league including the PEC candidates in tonight's forum. I moved to Wimberley in 2000 and immediately stepped into volunteer work, particularly at the Catholic and Favorite School.
Put the mic up, please.
When I moved to Wimberley in 2000, I immediately began volunteering within the community, and I will continue that. I believe that the position of director, while not voluntary, is one of service and should be considered one of service to the members. You are the member owners. I'm not going to stand on past laurels. I'm hoping there'll be questions to address. There's just not time to say a lot. Please call me, pick up my flyer, and I will be glad to spend time with each one of you answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rogers, why did you decide to run for a position as a director on the PEC board, and what is your experience with the co-op prior to this election?
I attended my first PEC annual meeting in 2002. By 2004, I was asking questions and recognizing that there were problems in our co-op. In 2006, I was tapped on the shoulder by a group of people who said, "You seem to be one of us, we need to do something about this co-op." And I was one of the original members in the reform movement. I have continued my activity at the co-op on a voluntary basis by attending all of the meetings. I've missed 5 in 5 years. One of those, I was as a chaperone in Washington, D.C. for the Rural Electric Co-op Youth Tour. And I would love to continue actually working for the co-op as your director. I've been a member of several of the volunteer committees, with the co-op, and I believe I have a great deal of insight into where we've been and where we're going.
Mr. Landaker, why did you decide to run for a position as a director on the PEC board, and what is your experience with the co-op prior to this election?
3 years ago, Patrick Cox, who currently serves District 7 on this board, asked me if I would consider getting involved in PEC. PEC was a mess. It had a leader named Benny Fuelberg, who was forced out in a member uprising. He was ultimately indicted, convicted in state court, and sentenced to a jail term. Through that process, PEC was dragged through the mud in the newspaper and was in a bad way. At that time, there was no operating budget at PEC. They spent whatever they needed, and there was a culture of failing to operate it as a business. I got on the board, was elected president of the board, and participated in reforming PEC to what it is today. A true member-owned cooperative where members have a voice, have a vote, and have access to records and meetings.
Thank you. Mr. Cantu-Withoff, why did you decide to run for a position as a director on the PEC board, and what is your experience with the co-op prior to this election?
You know, I was asked that question when I first announced my candidacy. I'm running because I want to make things better than they have been. The PEC owes that to its members. Now, my experience with boards, I've worked with school boards all over Texas. In my work with the Education Service Center, Region 20, and also my time with the Houston School District. I know how boards work. They operate and they get a staff to carry out what it is the patrons want. That's what I want to hear from you. What the patrons want. You are our owners. I'm always available to hear from you. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. I want you to tell me what you want me to do. This is all part of it. We need to know that. Yes, I'm going to try to keep our rates down. Yes, I'm going to be working for improving two-way communication. Yes, I'm going to be working for a number of these things. Now there's been told stop.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Donegan.
Thank you.
Why did you decide to run for a position as the director on the PEC board, and what is your experience with the co-op prior to this election?
Thank you very much. Frankly, I was asked by employees of the PEC, more than one. Mike, would you get involved? Mike, this business, which the PEC is, the PEC, make no mistake, is a business. It's actually a very large business. We are all members of the largest co-op, utility co-op in the United States, and we're also members of a co-op that is the fastest growing co-op in the United States. And believe me, everybody wants their ounce of flesh from the PEC. The PEC board is being chaotic by a lot of different people right now that want to see the board make the type of decisions that will benefit probably them and not so much the members. I, like everyone else, has read the papers, scratched my head, sat around in disbelief at what was going on inside that office over there. And to this day, they still have some of the endemic problems that need to be cleaned up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Donegan, PEC does not generate its own energy, but buys it from another source and distributes it to PEC members. What part do you foresee that renewable energy, such as solar and wind power, will play in PEC's planning? In other words, what would your position as director be on buying energy from renewable sources?
That is a question that's fundamentally two-part. Are you for that, and are you for raising the rates? Because renewable electricity right now does cost more, and I am not running on a platform to raise the rates. I have walked around and talked to hundreds of people. Before I'm done, it'll be thousands of people, and nobody has looked at me and said, please raise the rates. Get involved and put more windmills up, Mr. Donegan, or let's go generate. Everybody wants us to be a shrewd entity that can negotiate with the leverage that we have. And believe me, we have that leverage. We are not using it properly. The PEC is the 800-pound gorilla nationally for co-ops. They all know who we are and they want us. They really do. We need to have someone aggressive like myself who will go and negotiate and ask the board, ask the management, the CEO, to negotiate better deals with everybody. I would like to see the rates come down on solar, on wind before we get involved. Let someone else pay for that, not us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cantu-Withoff, what part do you foresee that renewable energy, such as solar and wind power, will play in PEC's planning? In other words, what would your position as director be on buying energy from renewable sources?
We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. I mean, we're talking about needing clean water. We're talking about not wanting to live in a radioactive and polluted world. We're talking about wanting a world great for our grandkids and our great-grandkids. We have to take our step, our big major step to do this. Yes, we do have to live a little while longer with fossil fuels, unfortunately, but we've got to wean ourselves from that. And we have to start now. We don't, like I say, to delay it any further. You know, I can understand many people arguing and saying, well, you're going through a normal global warming cycle. No. Why take a chance on this? We know the Antarctic ice shelf is melting. We know the Arctic ice is melting. We know the seas are rising. We can't, and we know that we're having all kinds of storms now from the heat. No, we have to look at other sources.
Thank you. Ms. Rogers, what part do you foresee that renewable energy, such as solar and wind power, will play in PEC's planning? In other words, what would your position as director be on buying energy from renewable sources?
PEC currently has a contract with Southbridge Wind Farm. I think that's like a 40-year contract that was entered into quickly, and it's now costing us a great deal of money. That will come down in 2014 when we no longer have to pay the congested line fee. However, it is still going to exceed what we are paying for gas and coal energy from LCRA. LCRA also has some wind power in their portfolio. My stand will be that when it becomes financially feasible for us to purchase additional renewable energy for our power source, I will support that. I will not support any move toward increasing rates for the members. We will have some government mandates that we will have to meet, and I believe with careful planning and a lot of forethought and planning for the future that we will be able to meet those mandates. But I'm not for raising rates just to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Landaker, what part do you foresee that renewable energy, such as solar and wind power, will play in PEC's planning? In other words, what would your position as director be on buying energy from renewable sources?
Well, as others have pointed out, we are already doing that. I believe that the board has actually committed to a portfolio that includes renewable energy. The question is, what is the balance? As if I am reelected, I can assure you that my first and foremost priority on this board is to address energy policy. Energy policy has taken a back seat over the last couple of years at PEC due to other pressures that we've had. But we must decide whether or not we are going to include renewable energy and at what cost, that we are transparent with our members about the cost, and what is the balance. As far as the eye can see, we're going to still rely on coal and natural gas and those types of energy sources. That renewable energy will be a part of our future.
Thank you.